This video is brought to you by ScalledWorld.net. If you want to get your build featured or check out some other awesome featured builds, be sure to head over to their Facebook page or their website to check it out and fill in that feature form. Before all the parts could be assembled together, I still had to paint a couple of them. So I applied some primer, then I applied some gunmetal gray, and then also some satin black, and some other parts and pieces got clear coated, mainly the front grille and some of the additional Liberty Walk body kit parts. During the unboxing of this kit, I noted there was a scratch in the window that you can see right here, and I also checked some other kits and they all seem to have that same scratch. Now, really weird, it's in the identical place, so it must have something to do with the way it's assembled in the factory or something else that I don't know, so that needs to be polished and buffed out. That's what I did with a polishing wheel, really simple, as it wasn't really that deep of a scratch, so it came out really easily. With that scratch now removed, I could move on to applying the masking templates supplied in the kit on the inside of the window, apply some of my own that I needed to cut to size, and could then move on to painting this black. To give the car a bit of a meaner look, I decided to tint the rear windows, and I had planned to do that with the airbrush and some Tamiya paints. While I was planning on doing that, I decided to also paint the rest of these parts with some Tamiya paints while I had the airbrush out anyway. So I took out some Tamiya black, painted that first. After this first coat, I noticed that it was going on a bit too thick and the paint needed a bit of thinning, so I added a bit of paint thinners for Tamiya into the airbrush, mixed the paint inside of the airbrush, and then it sprayed on a lot nicer on the second and third coat. With those three coats now applied, I carefully removed the rear half of the masking and then did a similar method for the tinting. I have a video on my channel. I will link it in the description down below if you are interested to see how I tint these windows. Basically, I just paint on a couple coats of Tamiya smoke, and to go darker, you just apply a couple more coats. To stay lighter, just apply a couple less coats. It's as easy as that. So in the unboxing I showed there were a couple of different sets of headlights. I chose to go with the newer ones as I kind of like the look a lot better, and it fits with all these over fenders and stuff like that. So there were a couple of decals that needed to be applied to those. I think these are some sort of LED strips on the actual ones, and in the kit they are just white decals to simulate that. With that done and out of the way, I took out my super glue and started assembling a lot of these parts. Now be aware, this is Super Gold Plus. This is clear parts safe super glue. Other super glue most likely will not be safe for clear parts, so be sure which glue you are using and check before you wreck. In order to fit the chassis and interior together with the body, fit in the rear section first and then pop in the front, pop the over fenders and the side skirts over, and here are a couple of clicks and you're pretty much there. I've tried it the other way around by putting the front in first and then the rear. That doesn't work, so save yourself some time and start by putting the rear in and then move on to applying a lot more parts with some glue. A little trick I use to glue these hood vents in is to put them in place and then apply some glue from the back. Use a cotton swab to remove the remaining glue, and then they are pretty much stuck in place forever without spilling a lot of glue on the rest of the hood. The instructions stated to remove a bit of the material on the front for the chassis, but not as much as actually needed, as the front splitter didn't fit on, so I needed to cut off a bit more. I could then move on to applying more of these parts. So this doesn't always happen, but in this case I felt the panel lines needed a bit more shade, so I took out some magic that is called to me a Panelline accent color and colored in all of the panel lines. When all those panel lines were colored in and I let it dry for a minute or two, I carefully removed all the excess Panelline accent color with a paper towel. Up until this point, all the rivets on the over fenders were still in the body color, and that needed to change, so I carefully hand painted all of them in a nice black color. When I was painting the body, I also masked off the vents on the side and painted these black. Later on, there was a trim piece that needed to be added onto there. This was a chromey piece, and I kind of thought it looked off after gluing it on, so I simply just painted it black and thereby finished this build. This video is brought to you by ScalledWorld.net. If you want to get your build featured or check out some other awesome featured builds, be sure to head over to their Facebook page or their website to check it out and fill in that feature form.